So people. So for those that haven't met yet, though, my name's Angie. This is Justine. Claire and Monique are in the back. We're all from New Ventures, BC. We work with early stage tech companies through various programs, and of course, this is the one through the annual competition. And this is our startup education series. So today's topic is around HR and recruitment with a focus on kind of the startup lens, but also looking a little bit ahead for as you plan and as you grow. And we have two speakers. We have Charlyne and we have Matt. So Matt's from Backstretch Recruitment, Charlyne's from Sova. And I will say, I'm a pretty, personally speaking, so I'm pretty jaded when it comes to HR. I'm always like, however, I've had the chance to interact with both Charlyne and Matt, and these are two HR people I would hire myself and that I really like and have both helped me professionally with New Ventures. So I'm very grateful they're here. Both very knowledgeable, both very authentic, and I hope you get a lot out of it as well. Okay, that's my little unplanned.
Thank you for the glowing endorsement. Yes, everyone can HR generally.
Yeah.
That we haven't heard before.
It's true. So I'm always like HR, but these are like picking the HR speaker is very important to me. So I'm very happy that I'm very happy with our two speakers. So before we jump in, always like to gratefully recognize we are on the unceded ancestral traditional territories of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. And of course, I also always like to say we are a nonprofit and our sponsors let us do all this fun stuff. So Innovate BC has been our title sponsor for almost 15 years. They let us do what we do. They're also part of the Road to Web Summit, which is the big tech conference coming at the end of May. And I think we have a 20% off discount code. We're going to. Tickets are still $600, not gonna lie, but we can get you that code if you ask for it. Our gold sponsors are EY and Baskin. Silver sponsors, RBCX, SFU Beauty School, Talk Shop Media, Vantech Angels. And then we have all sorts of bronze sponsors who are part of the ecosystem, Backstretch Recruitment being one of them. And I believe both Backstretch and Charlyne Sova also have some startup offerings as well on our perks page, which we give to our companies in the competition. I think I've had this slide up for a while, basically Road to Web Summit, whole bunch of events to help you prepare for Web Summit. If you look up Road to Web Summit, you'll find a calendar with all the events. These are our events. So coming up, as related, next week is our most Web Summit-y talk, and it's going to be kind of different. So the mic is always live. Maximizing your conference micro moments. So if you go to, it doesn't have to be a Web Summit, any big conference, usually lots of people, usually people asking you questions, asking you to give a pitch. So it's really, we've brought in some people from PR, some people from improv, to really try and give you a supportive, but also different way to help you practice for those types of interactions. So that can only be done in person. So it's in person, it'll be here, it'll be fun. I think we'll get some drinks and stuff because we need that too. So we'll do that next week. So come join us if that's of interest. And then the week after, this is a brand new workshop for us, which is around how to utilize AI tools for customer discovery. Not that AI can be your customer discovery, but really how to utilize different tools to help save you some time on figuring out product market fit, market validation. So James Rowe, he's done quite a big deep dive around AI tools, and he'll be here. I think it'll be quite practical. So he'll do a lot of live demos and things like that. So that's coming up. We have more. We just added these. So if you've been on a website, these are all new. This will be frictionless data room. So I think if you were here for Keith whole session on financing, he talked about data room. All the stuff that Keith offers is fantastic. So use that. But if you want additional kind of a hands-on look, David Steinley, he's going to go all in on data room. So if you're raising financing or curious what a data room, should be, this is your chance. And what else can we tell you that's going on? Vancouver Startup Week is coming, May 20th to 23rd. It's the week before Web Summit, 60 events. We have some events going on that week as well. So please do check that out. We are part of that. And 20% off with that discount code, we can send that out as well. And then what else? Clearly we have a lot going on. And then for intellectual property, if we have monthly ongoing intellectual property certification. So it's for startups who want to learn about IP and how it applies to your business strategy. So we have there's online versions and there's in-person versions coming up. So there's the QR code. Feel free to learn more. And that's ongoing through the rest of the year. Okay, finally I'm done. Thank you for staying through that. So I think we're gonna have Matt go first, talk recruiting and scaling, and then we'll move it over to Charlyne. So I will just pass it over.
Nice.
Thank you.
You just kind of point, nice. Okay, sweet. Thanks everybody for coming. Raise your hands if you have any questions today. It's nice to get some interaction. So who am I? 23 years focused specifically in the hiring space. I actually pursue professional golf. Moved to BC, decided to get out. Random recruiting company hired me. Been doing it now for 23 years. So Backstretch has been running for 13 years now. Yeah, I've actually interviewed over 30,000 people, if you can believe it. It's pretty crazy, but that's life. And then some of the cool stuff we've done is we do long-term partnerships with companies of promise. We partnered with this company, Certain. This actually came through New Ventures BC. We'll talk about them later. They started at 50 and they partnered with Backstretch. We did every single hire for that business and got them to 250. And they're actually now at over 400. So we've gone through tons of scaling experiences with customers, and we're not a traditional agency that does one-off hires. That's not the business. We partner with the brand, we build with them, we do every hire with that company over years. So really cool experiences to go through with them, and that's why I like talking about them today, because if everyone's in this room, whether it's your first or third startup, there's a lot of stuff I've seen where people have failed, and today is about learning about those failures, so you don't have to repeat them. So here's the stats. Everyone in this room, you've taken a path that inevitably has a high percentage of leading to failure. Okay, so we want you not to be in the failure category. So let's try not to do that. And we're seeing 5 million companies per year. We're seeing 90% of them failing. But the really interesting thing for me is I've seen a lot of companies, this is where they're failing most, is in this number between 11 and 50. And after me seeing hundreds of companies trying to grow, maybe they found their product market fit, maybe they've got a founder, maybe they've got revenue or they've got some funding, but now they're trying to grow and the people side is a real struggle for them. So with 90% failure rates and most between this stage, this is going to happen to the people that make it in this room. Some of you are going to grow, you're going to figure out product market fit and get some money, and then people is going to just hit you like a truck. And it's learn stuff today that hopefully helps with that. 23% are failing due to lack of talent. 52% are saying it's difficult to find the right talent, and 40% of founders do focus on things that are non-revenue generating activity, which all leads to the failure. So it's interesting, but it's kind of sad, but in the same breath, you guys are all here. You signed up for this. So let's get you the 10%. So over 23 years, no matter who the company is, whether they're in hydrogen fuel cells, whether they're in the logistics space, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in Canada, whether it's in the US, we keep on hearing the same issues, which is these ones. Quality of people sucks. We're wasting so much time trying to do this. We have no consistency in the process. We're hiring the wrong people, and the cost of it all is killing me. It's all the same. So we're working with one of the largest financial institutions in Canada right now as well, just so you know. They're saying the exact same thing. It's all broken, it's inconsistent. This role has been open since October, and no one's kind of figured this out. So you're not on your own, but it's just a continual revolving door. I would say the biggest pains I see is consistency of process, which leads to everything else. So I was thinking, okay, so if everyone's coming to New Ventures, what's the most important things we can focus on? I just want to open up the books of 23 years and say, what the heck's going on in terms of the resources and time it takes to scale a bit, just so you can wrap your head around it in the room. Talk about learning from those who succeed. And then there's some key lessons that I kind of was thinking about on the weekend to be like, what are the 3 things if I could ingrain into every startup I've ever worked with or people in the room today that you walk away from and be like, I got to do these things. So just to give you an idea of time, we're gonna go into more time stuff. The average time to hire across range of functions today on LinkedIn is 41 days. And more challenging positions are between 49 days. Raise your hand if that number seems like accurate for you, or you're like, oh my God, that takes way too long. Yeah, okay, we got one hand up. Anyone think it should take a lot shorter than that? Yeah, hand over there, hand over there. Anyone think it should take longer? We got some longers in the room. Okay, so Backstretch averages 14 business days in 2024. So if it's done really well, it's done really well. We took on a new client on 2 weeks ago. We found in Montreal, new position, very highly technical role, closed in 8 business days. So if it's done well with consistency, you can kill it. But this is happening. Why? Probably because of this line. Consistency of process and tons of wasting of time, which actually is money because everyone's getting paid in these situations, which is crazy. What matters? So in today's market, candidates do care most about compensation as usual, but just also keep in mind professional development and better work-life balance are ranking super high, 1, 2, and 3. Why is that important for you in the room? Whether you don't have anybody on your team, it doesn't matter. These are conversations you want to have with people. The experience, 49% of respondents decline job offer because of poor recruiting experience. So that thing above about consistency experience is huge. So when you are working with people and you have inconsistency, 1 or 2 people are going to walk away because it's just a shitty experience. And that sucks because you're bleeding for this company. But the people you're trying to bring on are going to watch that. And I'll say this, there's 49%. The good one's probably going to walk away, not the bad one, because they have more opportunities and they want to join a really cool company. So impact for you in the room, it's going to hurt tons to mess up your ramp up and your hiring. I don't care if you're one person in this room, if you're hiring a second person, don't mess around with it. Companies, this is cost stuff. 15K bad hires, morale drops, productivity drops, it sucks. So I want to open up the case study of Certain. I know no one here is in the room, but it's cool because Certain actually, they come through new ventures and Backstretch did the first 15 to 250 hires. We had 194s for this company in 19 months. Good experience for everyone in the room to learn from. I broke it down in hours, just to give you an idea of what happens, because you think you can maybe do hiring on your own, or maybe I'm going to do it. And what I inevitably find people are just saying all this stuff before, consistency, quality. I hired this person, shortcuts. It all sucks. These are people you're going to surround yourself with and spend more time probably with your partner. So when we were going through the 194 hires, we did 607 hours work of recruiting, 776 first interviews, 465 second interviews, over 3,000 people Backstretch reached out to gain interest for Certain. These are not people who applied. And yeah, only 3% of the market were applying through traditional marketing. So a lot of people think you post ads in recruiting. You don't post ads. Not how you run recruiting. Roughly 70% of the people found that were actually hired were from our reach out messaging to them, gaining interest versus people who were applying to ads. Applying to ads is a great way to lower quality of your talent pools, inevitably hiring poor quality, which sucks because you don't want to do that. So you got to figure out ways to actually build talent pipelines and get people excited. So I'm gonna watch time. So number 2, we talked about failures, but I think it's good to learn. Let's talk about the people who've done them really well. So Certain's now over 400 employees. Crazy. They're based in Victoria, BC, started by Andrew, awesome dude. And I look back on this and always talk about when I'm talking with people, I'm like, why did they do well? How did they make it? They're probably not in the 10%, they're probably in the 1%. And I got to experience 3 to 4 years with them while they were going through all the chaos. And I said, well, how the heck did these guys make it? So yeah, again, they were a finalist in 2017. Huge jump in revenue. And they are going up, but this time was just unbelievable. So let's talk about it. Let's just break it open and be like, what did I witness there that made them be in the top 1%? So the first thing is, well, actually there's 3 lessons I kind of pulled from this, which I hopefully everyone kind of can grab. First one is you got to rely on partners. And we'll talk more about it later, but if you're not relying on partners, you're going to fail. That's my opinion after 23 years of watching a whole bunch of companies. We'll talk about what that means, okay? Number 2, it starts at the top. What do I mean by that? You'll learn. But Andrew was the beacon for this place. Anytime when things went wrong, he would get into it, he would fix it, he would solve it no matter how big they are. and clarity on what they're trying to do. They do something, it's a SaaS software company, but they were more clear in terms of what they were trying to build as a team and a community, which we're going to get into later on HR. So what do I mean by building trust with partners? If you're growing, or you got investment, or you raised, it's awesome. You should be pretty excited. I remember the conversation when I was on my patio, and I was talking to Andrew, the CEO. He raised $42 million in his first round. Crazy first round. Good for him. And I was like, dude, congratulations. And you know what he said? Any guesses? Oh shit. You know why?
So much to do.
So much to do. The way I compare this, after seeing hundreds of companies go through this, is you're on it's like a solar system. You're on this planet, and this planet requires these skills. Run lean, bootstrap yourself, always be selling, right? Always be selling. And then some people don't make it past that world, or they die on that world, right? And then something happens. There's a trigger in your business. It means someone's going to come with a rocket ship and move you to a whole different earth. And this is what I'm talking about today. When you get to that whole different earth, you think what you had the skills in that first earth, it's not relevant. Some of them are, many are not. So when you get to the new earth, there's new oxygen systems, there's new predators, there's new things. And it's this jump that I think is where Canada fails a lot. Because we are giving money, we are raising, but then there's this jump, which is what I think our biggest value is. But like, take my company out of it. This idea of partners is huge. Okay, so there's another company after we've done 56 hires for a really cool company in California who's changing healthcare outcomes for the people that are having the hardest time. It's his third startup. He's a doctor and he actually wants to influence lives, and we're doing all the hiring for him. Super cool company. But he said two things when I first met with him. He said, after 3 startups, I've learned 2 things. 1, how are we getting faster today? And 2, how am I getting smarter as a CEO today? That's what he learned through all this. It's the same idea, because when you're going through partnerships, it doesn't matter what your business needs, but you have to solve it. And if you think you're going to do it yourself, you're going to have a high burnout rate. It's going to be pretty bad. Mostly because the people that you can bring in as partners have really high competency levels in their thing, whatever that thing is. So in your business, like when they did 42 million in that oh shit moment, they had to pull back the onion layers and just say, okay, finance is being run by one person in the corner. How are we solving that now? HR is totally broken. Business development was done by the president and CEO. He was the one doing the funding rounds. How are we going to solve that? There's all of these things that need to be solved. And what they were really smart about is saying, not having the ego or the type A personality that's saying, oh, I can do it. They were first to say, we got to solve this. How are we going to solve it? And I will say this, the coolest thing about you bringing on partners, even on today, you just fire them. You just get rid of them. And it's the best part. Because Backstretch was chosen to be the hiring partner for certain. They had 5 to 7 different agencies as well as HR trying to solve hiring. They chose us, but they could have fired us throughout that entire experience, which was really, I think, honest and transparent, because we showed them that we can execute for them and they showed trust with us. So if the finance part, it's like hiring an employee where you got to hire one person for marketing. It's like, how am I finding partners that are going to make us faster and make me smarter today? That's how you get the 10%. That's how when you get to that new world, that's how you make it. That's what I've seen. So other thing I noticed at Certain was it starts at the top. So I'm assuming most people are here are probably the leaders, the founders today, and you're trying to grow. Cool. I saw this over and over and over again, and I'm not too sure how to communicate it, but I'm going to try. On that earth, when they moved to the new earth, hiring was just one part of their problems. It wasn't everything, but they leaned in and said, who can we chat with? They worked with 5 different companies. HR was trying to hire. It was kind of working, but it really wasn't. And then they just raised the 42 million. So what I found is we immediately worked through with all the decision makers at the table. They considered different partners to work with. And then we signed and sealed it pretty quickly. It took about a week and a half. Because they knew they had to move fast and fail fast. And we worked with them throughout the entire experience, but they could have fired us, which I think is the best part about vendors. So the lesson I saw through this, and I kept on seeing it, was the buy-in from the people at the top dictates success and gets you in the top 10%. I saw this in hiring, but I saw this across the board. If there's disconnection or issues at top, it always manifests itself into the company. And you as the founders and leaders here, if you don't agree with something, then you got to change it quickly and you got to move. And your teams will figure that out and find that out. Attempted buy-in from lower levels and resistance. If you're seeing those things, you got to lean in heavy and you got to solve it. One of the big things with certain, a quick story, is that we were doing a really good job of bringing candidates to them, but our acceptance rate was only around 20%. So their systems were pretty broken. And Andrew from the top called me directly. He's like, hey, dude, like, I know you're doing a lot of work, but we're not getting the hires done. We got to figure this out. He could have fired us. I was like, yeah, okay, let's talk about this. I'll break it all down for you, then we'll have a talk tomorrow. So I showed him all the numbers. I showed him we're getting all these candidates to the stage. We can improve rates, but you're only getting 20% of people accepting at the final stage. So you're losing 80%. Why is that? So we brainstormed some ideas and we came up with a really cool solution, which was got it from 20 to like 85%. And what it was is Andrew joined the final offer presentations as the CEO and president. And we created a unique presentation for each candidate saying, hey, this is why we like you. This is why you're awesome. And this is where we're going as a business. It was like a game changer for them and what got us to all these big numbers. But it's a small example of what it means to lead from the top versus blaming others and not taking accountability. It's pretty cool. Last one is we're going to talk more about this later, but just clarity on the brand. Because branding, what you're trying to build will make you make decisions quickly. And for them, when they first joined, they had sweaters like this, and they had certain, and they went to a job fair, career fair, and they said, no assholes. It was kind of funny, but everyone now knew who Certain was. That was what they were trying to build. They do background checks and criminal checks in a SaaS environment, but their shirts they decided to wear just said, no assholes, Certain. And everyone was like, okay, cool, this company doesn't want assholes. Good vibes.
They also help you weed out assholes if you use their service.
That's right. And also you got all these people that are making decisions. Oh, this person's super technically strong. Maybe I should bring them on, but he's kind of an asshole. And then the team, so Andrew from the top is like, no, we're not building a team of assholes. So this actually evolved later for them into what it means to them. This happened like years 2 and 3, but it helped them make decisions quickly around hiring. And they were not focused on the most highly technical. They were really leaning into, hey, do we want to work with them? Do we see them as mocking others? Do we see them refusing to assist others? Are they kind of a gossiper kind of person? This is what it broke down to for them. It helps them build over 400 people. Okay. So the key lessons, it's a lot of stuff. I think probably timing 10 to 15 more minutes, then some Q&A, and then you can run, then we can do some Q&A at the end. So this is what I've added because I've done a lot of these and I've always tried to figure out how to sum up what I think is the biggest thing to get you to 10%, and hopefully 1% in this room who make it. The first thing is I see too many companies who are in that growth stage settle. And it just pisses me off and it drives me absolutely crazy. It's like Groundhog Day. You work your butt off, you raise money, you do something, and then you hire that person that you met at that event. And then you're stuck with them and you screwed yourself. And I've seen this hundreds of times and it's the biggest freaking annoying thing I've ever seen. You really will spend time, almost more time with this person than you'll spend with your loved ones. And you settle when you hire. And what I'm telling you is do not freaking settle on your first hire, your second hire, or your 10th hire. Don't settle. I don't care how you do it, but don't settle. I've seen it happen too many times. It drives me crazy. I wrote sharks and vultures. So what do I mean by that? I think that there are sharks and vultures attacking you daily, trying to get equity from you, trying to do things to you to benefit themselves. And I see it at events. I remember I had my first experience. I'm 45 now, but my first experience when I was in an agency, traditional agency, I was like, doing pretty good. And I was like 26 years old. And I was at an event and this guy came up to me and he's like, hey, I'm a business coach. Like, oh, that's awesome. Cool. I got a business card. I was like, oh, I'm going to call him. I could use some coaching. And I saw him drive away in a car that was like an old and beat up car. And I'm like, oh, I would assume he would be in his 50s when I met him. I was 26 and this guy's trying to coach me, but I got questions now. And after doing a lot of these events, I just watched the room and I swear visually to me, it's like sharks and vultures surrounding them like, with you in the room today. Because you're the ones that promise. And the sharks and vultures are out there trying to figure out how they can navigate and take advantage of you. So if you have somebody who's trying to come in and get equity, trying to be your first employee, whatever, do not settle. It's just, it's like the saddest thing I've ever seen in startups. Actually, it's why I think the clean and green technology world of Canada is failing. We're getting investment, but a lot of settling. And it's very frustrating. People say this, they're like, oh, you know, your best hires are through networking. Completely false. Never believe this. Whoever told you this has never ramped up companies, does not do hiring for a living, and it's complete BS. Okay? Never ever do that. Now, you may have met someone through a network. Totally cool. Filter them. Go through the same system as the networking person, as the applicant, or the people you reach out to. You have to create systems to ensure you're getting the best hire every time. So a little story and example is here is, so imagine you're in Toronto and you're the founder of the Blue Jays. Obviously not possible, but just go with me for a second. You post an ad on Indeed, right? You say pitchers wanted. I'm an awesome company. We need pitchers. So you get all these applications from Indeed, 300, 400, 500 applications, 1,000 people apply. But here's the thing. If people are applying to your Indeed ad for being a pitcher at an MLB level, what do you think the quality of this group is? Any guesses? Pretty low. Pretty freaking low. But you, as the founder, are comparing them all against each other, and you're going to grab the best 5 pitchers that played high school. Now, here's the thing. The Yankees are scouting. They're going to Japan. They're finding the people with the top ERA, and they're going to find the best people possible. And you think you've done a good job here, and you go against the Yankees and you lose 30-0. It's because that's what's happening in business today, and it drives me absolutely crazy. You're settling. You post something, you get all these people coming in, you're like, oh, we got 400 applications. It's like, I don't care about numbers. What's the quality of these people for real? Because again, getting the top 10% here, not failing, people is going to drive this for you. The last thing too in this category is I've seen this happen and it's kind of sad. You bring in people you know well, especially friends at the beginning when you're founding, and then you have to remove them. So some of our best customers over 13 years, I've seen them personally go through this, and it sucks. And the other thing that sucks about it is that usually one's pulling their weight and growing it, and then the other one isn't. So now you got to sit down and talk to people you love and be like, hey, how are we going to solve this? It's additional anxiety and stress on top of additional anxiety and stress. So it's not bad to do it. I'm just saying is your friend may not be the best CRO or the chief revenue officer. We see this a lot. Hey, this guy's cool. I met him at an event. He seems like he talks well. Let's get him in sales. They bring him in, poor performer, paying him for a year. Meanwhile, you should run an awesome search and find like the best person you can sell in your industry. And like, that's the stuff we want to be thinking about. So even if it's your first hire, second hire, third hire, never settle. It's the worst. Next one is it's a similar concept, but it's just take it seriously. Give a shit, please. Like you're doing so much. You're trying to get money. You're going to things like this. You could be at home right now. And then there's so many shortcuts in the world of hiring in teams that just drives me bonkers. We know most people, most companies are failing between 11 and 50. I believe that's because they found product market fit. They probably raised some money or they're probably making revenue. And now they're taking shortcuts around people and they're having a lot of issues. And you're surrounding yourself with people without the highest quality. Everyone you're hiring, you have to ask, is this the top 10% of what I can find in this role? If the answer is no, you're failing because we know 90% you're going to fail anyways. So it has to be the top 10%, hopefully the top 5%. And yeah, why are they failing? Well, revenue first, money first, people second. This is what I've seen of all the companies I've seen for so long. It's like, yeah, they figure out some money, then they get into people and they fail. Or they haven't figured out money yet, they fail. Money, people, the equation is pretty difficult to manage. So quick story here, is we get called into discovery calls with companies. What's typically what they've found revenue or they've figured out some raising, right? Like even on the sleeve, it says raise, ramp, and repeat. That's a slogan for us. Why is it? Because you probably raise, now you need to ramp, and we want you to keep raising and repeating so we can be your person to grow your companies. So my director of operations who heads up software hiring and I hop on a call. We talk to a local BC company in the real estate tech space. And this is, again, it's like Groundhog Day for me when I have these calls. It's like, hey, cool, saw how much you raised. Great job, dude. Let's talk. It's like, okay, we've got this role. You know, it's my revenue role. It's super important because, you know, we're getting pressured from the investors to increase sales. I'm like, sounds awesome. That's great. Cool. But I can't talk about it. So the executive assistant's running it. I was like super red flag to me. I'm like, okay, like you put all your time into this and now you've decided to offload the most important hire of your life to your executive assistant. Okay. So Joffrey and I are like, oh, all right. And also it's kind of disrespectful of time, which is a huge issue in my life. It's like people are like, hey, let's talk. And then you talk to them like, oh, talk to that person. You're like, what? Like, so weird. So then we talk to the executive assistant. This is how it went for real. She's like, hey, yeah, we've already been running it. There's been some applications. I'm managing it. And I'm like, okay. I looked at her background. She like been working in a business for like 6 months, no recruiting experience, and like a part-time model. Like, okay. And this is what happens all the time because you just shortchange yourself on hiring and then you fail. So I said, okay, Joffrey and I are like, well, okay, we want to help. Okay, well, we've got a lot of applications, so we're probably okay. Like, okay. And she's like, and tomorrow's my last day anyways. I was like, what the F is going on today? So this guy raised all this money. He presents well, right? But his decisions as a founder made this company fail. You saw through those interactions why this happens. And he raised a really good amount. So we were pretty excited when we first talked to him. Then he said, oh, I'm not doing this. So he passed the buck. He's not leading from the top. Then it goes to this person over here. This person has no experience, abilities, totally going to just accept a whole bunch of random resumes and review. Terrible way to grow. And it's her last day. So I didn't even know what to do at that point. And I'm sharing that story because it's not uncommon. I hear that story and I hear those in my discovery calls is that people saying, oh, yeah, no, we can do it on our own. Or, oh yeah, no, yeah, we put an ad out somewhere. We got 200 great people. It's like, did you? Think about the pitcher example. Did you just post an ad and get the best high school pitchers for your team? Or are you actually getting and scouting and getting the best possible people that are going to make your company awesome and run? Like you want the best possible people. That's just also makes work kind of fun. And you can like be challenged and grow with people. And it just kills me. It's like my biggest pet peeve in life, you can probably tell.
You got the takes today, Matt.
Yeah, learn. So Greg at Clinexus. This is the guy I was telling you about earlier. Awesome dude. It's his third startup. Okay. He's actually a doctor, like a medical doctor, and he's a technology guy. And he said, okay, he's done very well financially for himself. And he's just like, okay. His biggest pet peeve being in the medical system is you can only influence people when they're at the hospital. And he kept on seeing the same people come back. And it was very frustrating for him, whether it's drug use or whether it's unstable homes. And he said, I know I can solve this. He said, I've got the background for it. I've done this before. I've raised money. So his company actually has figured out and is gaining lots of contracts across California to take the care out of the hospital and bring it into their environments. So it's a challenging business to run because you've got to convince people in the healthcare space to go meet your patient where they're at. But you can actually influence 80% of outcomes in their environments, only 10% in the hospital. So he said, I made money, we were selling stuff, but we weren't really helping people. And now he's built this business. The biggest challenge in this business, you could probably imagine, finding people. So when we partnered with him, we've done some cool stuff. And I think, yeah, we're probably at around 70 hires with them right now. And randomly, it's all healthcare practitioners across California that we reach out to, share a story about what Greg is doing at Clinexus and gaining interest in what they're trying to build. So guess when we post an ad, guess how many people are applying to a nurse job in California to go work in places that are not hospitals? Yeah, it's like nothing, right? And the ones who do apply, absolute crap. So us as a business, we're like, we dig what you're building. We're going to learn each nurse. We're going to send direct messages about what you're building. We're going to tell your story. And now we've done like over 70, roughly. It's probably, I know we had 3 hires last week. So like, he's not settling. right? He's building something, and why, there's an interview on our website, to a case study interview with him, and the thing that keeps resonating with me with him, which I'm hoping everyone learns in the room today, he asks the same two questions every morning he wakes up. He says, how can we be faster as a business? And how can I get smarter as the founder? Hopefully everything today allows you to realize that choosing partners so you can fire quickly, that 90% of you are going to fail, unfortunately. And the biggest area you're going to fail is between 11 and 20 is probably connected to people. But if you're asking these two questions, I think you got a really good chance. And this is something that Greg lives by. And it's actually something that I've kind of brought into my life too. If we're not getting better or faster and we're not getting smarter, then, you know, what are we even doing? So that's it. So there you go. New Ventures BC, if anyone wants to chat or talk, there's my stuff. You can reach out to me. Totally happy to chat. I'm non-operational in this business. So that means I don't do any of the operational stuff, which is awesome. Gives me time to work with people like you. If you guys just want to chat for 30 minutes, no worries. Like, I want to see you succeed. I want to see you do well. I want to see you get in the top 10%. And again, I really believe Canada's failing on the global system because we're giving money, but we're not, that 11 to 20 stage is where we're failing. And I know it has to do with the people. So that's my mission. So there you go. Thank you for the clap. So do we want to do some Q&A or do you want to do yours? How you vibing?
Either or.
Anyone have any quick questions on this stuff? Just so, like, let's do 5 or 10 on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you go ahead, Lauren.
Yeah, how can we get smarter?
Well, there's no real answer to that, right?
Yeah,
But if you're asking your question,
people
if
are
you're-
smart or otherwise.
no, I don't think so. I don't think that's the point. I think the point is if you wake up every day and you ask yourself and your team, how are we getting smarter today
As a system.
as a system? You're asking the right question. And we never knew Greg before his other two companies, but when we did meet with him and he learned about what we do, he was just like, "Ah, I wish I met you guys earlier," because he struggled so much in the scaling and the hiring stage, but he made it. But he heard about how we partnered with them under their brand, and actually we're like 50 to 70% less than traditional agencies. So we actually partnered with companies and helped grow them. So he was always trying to get smarter with hiring, and he asked his team the same questions: how are we getting smarter? When they started this company, Colexis, they were trying to do hiring themselves, just like you're going to do in this room. And he said to me in his first call was, you know, we're working on the weekends. We're getting 200 applications, and none of them are valuable or worthy. They're from all different places in the world, and like the guy can't sleep because he's told people, and especially hospitals, that we can do this for you. It's his life mission now to do that, but he is failing. Again, 11 to 20, that's when you fail. So if he keeps asking how we're getting smarter, he took a discovery call with my company, introduced by a US person, right? He could have just said, I'm busy. So we're a Canadian company. It's very easy to just be like, hey, you know, whatever. But he's just like, I want to learn. I want to see if what they do is smarter. I want to dive into that, and I want to be curious. And I think that's what it's about. And that's how you get in the top 10% is, you know, if you ever think you figured it out, it's alarming. And he's a very smart person, but he's never one to focus on his smartness. It's like, how are we getting smarter? And he always asks the question, also, how is he getting, he asked these two questions: how are we getting faster as a company? And he's asking for himself, how am I getting smarter today? So yeah, you talk to the team about it, but also if you ask yourself every day, am I getting smarter today? Am I getting faster today? Then you can do well. So I think that's the concept I was trying to pass through that.
Rewire the system.
Yeah, and you know, it's never gonna be perfect, but like what's going on?
Oh, yeah, thanks. I was wondering, you talk about partnering with others,
Yeah,
and is there a delineation where you say, okay, this is a sector, this is a field where I should find a partner and partner with someone, as opposed to having in-house? Is that?
it's a good question.
Are you talking
Yeah,
about?
it's a great question. So I just want everybody to put on your founder hats and ask a question. Here, I'll give you a great example. Hiring, in my opinion, should never be solved internally in a company. And why is that? Because hiring is like surfing. Some days it's calm. Some days you're on a nice wave. Some days It's a huge wave.
Mhm.
And all these promises you make to the external world
Right.
is saying, I can ramp up for these things. An individual recruiter in a company can manage about 7 positions, maybe 10. So this is a great example of why you should ask these questions as a founder. Do I bring on an internal resource or do I bring on a partner? Internal resource can manage between 7 to 10. That's it. If they're doing 12, I know that they're gonna suffer. They may say to you, oh, no problem, I've got it. The reality is we know it's not true. So they want to keep their job. Fair enough. If you have 30 positions, and then as a founder, you're gonna be meeting and interview lower quality people. But the problem is humanity only needs selection. What do I mean by that? If you meet 5 people, you will choose the best out of the 5. This is the issue about recruiting, because no one's asking about the quality issues of those 5. You meet 5 pitchers from your Indeed ad. Hey, you know what? Jimmy's he's a nice guy. He seems like he's a really good pitcher. Okay, cool. New York Yankees. They're scouring the earth for the best talent and they only accept the best. You're gonna get destroyed. So that's my example of recruiting. I've seen too many companies try to do TA or talent acquisition internally and fail because of bandwidth issues and inevitably quality issues. Because the internal TA person isn't speaking honestly with the founder. Hey, I can do 32 roles, no problem. 40 problem, I got it. But all they're doing is throwing out ads, grabbing resumes and throwing them to you. Because a really great recruitment person can only do between 7 to 10. That means reaching out, gaining interest, and building pipelines. So this is a great example. As a founder, what should you do, right? You got to cut through those lies and be like, okay. So now finance, it's more consistent, right? It goes up and down a bit. So that could be a question. Do you want to bring on a partner? Do you want to bring an individual? I will say this. One of the biggest issues of hiring internally, even though we're a hiring company, you got to find them. How long does it take? Pop quiz. Anyone remember?
41.
Some whispering. 41 days. So your business is not being solved for 41 days. And then what happens when they start? How long does it take, do you think, to ramp them up?
Months.
Probably about 3 to 4 months, right? So now you're 4, 5, 6 months in, and guess what's going to happen? Do you think they're going to quit soon? Sometime, and then they're going to quit. So, like, Backstretch never has a service interruption. Get started on day 1, we can ramp up at any scale, and we're never going to quit you. So as a provider, you're like, oh, okay. You don't know that until you go through that pain. So, but it's a huge pain. And in TA, we see this a lot, right? Because internal TA, they sell the dream that I can do it. Founder says, you seem cool, cool. We've solved hiring, yay. You find them 41 days, they ramp up 3 months, and then they quit. So you've had 6 months of time where none of these positions are being serviced, and you're getting all this pressure and anxiety building and building and building. This is why partners are great. And like I said, you can call up a partner, you have a real honest conversation, like Andrew when he called me. We're not getting the fills we need. I said, dude, we're getting all the people, but it's 20%. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Here.
Okay, good. Yeah. So the idea is, like, if you're gonna hire based on competency, partners are awesome. You can challenge them, you can hold them accountable, and you can get rid of them tomorrow.
Mhm.
And if you're hiring an internal resource, you gotta really think about bandwidth. Because if bandwidth is changing in your business in any area, that's probably not a good idea for an internal resource. And that's why a lot of companies do fail. Like I had this terrible conversation with this company, it's so awesome. They're gonna hire like 30 people in engineering, they're in the cleaning green technology space. It's like exactly my business plus my heart. It's like, I'm so excited. And I talked with them a week later and they're like, yeah, we're gonna hire our own TA manager, talent acquisition manager. And I was like, oh God. I was like, I can't do anything because he was like a first-time founder, really cool dude, got a lot of money. And I know what's gonna happen. They're gonna search for 41 days, the person's gonna have to ramp up, and then they're eventually gonna leave. And all those service interruptions around their hiring is gonna hurt the business, which my worry is they're not gonna make it. And that's why I think Canada is failing. So, it's a tough question to ask. When do I hire? When do I use a partner? And I think it's always a great conversation to have. I will say this, the worst thing about partners though is they sound really good because they're probably older and they've got their pitch down, but do references, be really hard on who you select and hold them really accountable in the first month. Like just lean in on them and be like, I need this, this, and this. Because I brought in partners into my own business, especially like in a CMO, chief marketing officer style, a lot of money, and I wasted a lot of money, and it was super frustrating for me because awesome person, Great work, but he didn't really share. He had like 6 projects on the go. And I kept on wanting to be his priority, but I found out through working with him that I wasn't after like 3 or 4 months. And it was really frustrating. So it's not gonna solve all your issues, but paying for competence is a thing. And holding them accountable early is a thing. Any other stuff? Yeah,
I'm still studying for my graduate degree as a computer science, but I find some very talented and good students or schoolmates, which I really want to hire them for our company. But I feel it's later because I'm the CTO and they're gonna be my employee, there must be a power imbalance, which I'm really worried about. So I just try to figure out if this is actually a good idea to hire some schoolmates in.
oh yeah, okay. Well, we talked a little bit about that, which is, it can go really well, but it can go really bad. And to me, like, not to be overly blunt, but it sounds like you're settling. Why are you settling? Because you met these people, they seem to be smart, but you're not comparing them to the world. You're not comparing them to other people. And if you think they are the best, then allow them to compete in an open source environment. Go post an ad if you want to do it on your own. Go do some head-on reach out campaigns. And then if the students are interested, put them all and compare them all against each other. Because if you keep on settling with just because these people are in the room, it happens all the time, right? You meet someone in a room or you meet someone at this event. I used the sharks and vultures comment earlier. It like pains my heart when I see a great promising company get attacked by that vulture or that shark who's now doing something for them. It's like the worst.
And because one thing I'm considering is because they are my schoolmates, I can like have a longer history of witnessing their skills. So it might seems to be more reliable that I can figure out more about them better than those total strangers. So
I think that's great, right? So that's part of the equation, which is cool. But also don't limit yourself. Go talk to others and go do some marketing, and because you're gonna spend so much time with these people. So I'm not saying no, right? I'm saying it's a great idea. And the other thing too is we're not talking about today, but trust goes a long ways. So if you trust them, like, you know what I mean? So we all know in this room that if you trust someone and you love somebody, they're probably gonna stay with you, right? Cool. So we're talking that, you know them. So I think that's great. But I also think is 90% of you are gonna fail, and that sucks. But we know you're gonna fail between 11 and 20, and we know it's gonna be connected to the decisions you make during that stage. And it has a lot to do with who you decide to bring on your team to get you to 11. So just don't settle.
Okay.
Yeah, please. Thank you. Anything else?
Get online? We're good?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's 5:20, so it's good timing.
Perfect.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, you wanted me to go on this side ideally? Okay, perfect. Awesome. My timer. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, man. I love all that stuff. And also as a service provider, 100% hold us accountable. Good service providers, we want to be adding value. If I can't add value to the company, I'm not really interested in helping. So I say no to clients too. When I chat with clients, it's a two-way street. And absolutely, that is the great thing about service providers, which I can tell a little bit about. Okay, so I'm gonna, once you get all these great people that we didn't settle for and we get them in the door, how do we keep them? Because as we talked about, bad hires cost money, but so do good hires that leave your company. So I'm gonna chat with you guys about creating a high performance culture from day one. So these are absolutely things you can do, whether you've got one person or you're just starting to think about things. So very tactical. So a little about me, my name is Charlyne. I'm the founder of Sova Operations. So I'm absolutely one of those partners that Matt endorsed to our service providers. I provide fractional HR services to early stage startups. So exactly how I said, not ready to hire a full-time person, or you maybe need some strategy set up and you need a more senior brain to get that going. Bring someone on like myself, let me set that up for you, and then let me maybe hire you that first HR person or kind of oversee a junior person, that sort of thing. And one of my value propositions is I have been in Canada's tech ecosystem for the last 15 years. I have a collective of other partners. So I know fractional salespeople, fractional CMOs, Matt, and I love his model. If you have a lot of people to hire, I don't do that. I will be calling Matt. And that's a big benefit of just kind of that network. So it's something that we offer at Sova Operations. I have 20 years experience across industries in HR and business operations. I was the former program director at Grow Lab, which was a VC-backed accelerator program back in the day. Checks were being written on demo day. It was a good time. Anyone who was in that world at that time, it was really fun. Some of the proudest work I did. I was also the founding director of career services at Lighthouse Labs. So joined as employee number 5, left around that 50 mark, set up their people, program, and processes to get all the students jobs once they graduated from boot camp, and expanded them across Canada. They recently got acquired, so I'm really excited about that. I do a lot of startup mentoring and advising, and as well as I'm the head of community at Tech and People Network, which is a nonprofit HR association supporting folks in Canada's tech ecosystem. So if any of you have around 30 employees already, that's the kind of time to consider getting your HR person dialed into what we do at Tech People Network. And generally, I'm inspired by entrepreneurs and passionate about supporting growing companies. I've been in-house, I've worked and seen, you know, all the startups do all of the things. I went on my own 3.5 years ago to provide this value to startups because I'm so inspired by all of you. And I know technically I'm an entrepreneur now, but I really don't feel like I am. And I just love the stuff people are doing. And this is how our world is going to get fixed with everyone's ideas and execution. So let's make everyone part of that 10%. Okay, this is just some of the folks I work with, built on trust, referral-based business to date. Okay, also before I get started, I want to share I'm hosting a free event. You can scan this code and I'll also get the team to send it out. It's just 30 minutes. It's actually answering one of those questions that Matt said, do I really need HR? So this people stuff is starting to pile up. I'm going to do a quick talk about when you need to hire HR and go through some of those partner solutions before it's time to bring that full-time person in. So quick practical thing, we're going to be talking about that, and you can register for that, and I'd love to see some of you there. Okay, so from hiring to high performance. So you hired the high performers, and basically your environment will determine if that hire is successful. So we're going to pretend you hired the right person as per the last talk. And this environment is essentially what makes up your culture. So we've all heard the term culture eats strategy for breakfast. You can have the best strategy, the best product. People are the cause of and solution to all of your problems. So let's make sure if you take the time to hire a good person, you take the time to make sure your company is ready to get those people set up for success and get them doing what they're good at doing. So what is culture? There's a lot of misunderstanding of what culture is. What people think culture is, and actually what I used to think culture was when I first started in HR, you think it's the mission statement, the glossy words on your website, what you're striving to do. You think it's your reputation, what others think of your company. Perks is one that we think culture, you know, beer and ping pong tables back in kind of the bro tech days. It's evolved a little bit since then, but definitely unlimited vacation, work from home, office dogs. People think that's your culture. I chose that, I got that, done and dusted. They think it's your vibe, your cool office space, your cool swag, that fun atmosphere that everyone gets together and has a good time. They think that's culture. And they think events are culture. So happy hours, offsite socials are culture. This is really common. I thought so as an HR person earlier in my career. But what culture actually is how decisions gets made. Who has input? How fast does this happen? How does feedback happen? Is it honest? Is it political? Is it tough to navigate? Is it avoided? So no feedback's happening. What gets rewarded and tolerated? Are values real or just marketing? There's a whole exercise you can go to make sure your values are connected to your culture. But a really simple example of that are meetings. Do people show up on time for meetings? And is that tolerated? If on average, everyone shows up 5 minutes late and that's the consistent thing with meetings, that's your culture. You have a culture of people come late to meetings. You have a culture of people don't turn their Zoom cameras on at meetings, or they do turn it on at meetings. That is your culture. How leaders show up under pressure. This is your culture. When shit hits the fan, we're going to use the word shit a lot. It's one of my favorite words. When shit hits the fan, how are the leaders showing up? Are they chaotic? Is the chaos now everyone's problem? That is your culture. Or is it calm? Is there maybe a trusted group that gets together and kind of decisions get made and then gets communicated out? This is what your culture is. And it really comes down to the invisible rules. So the real expectations, not the ones written down. And I love the meeting example because it just encompasses it. Do people know they can be 5 minutes late? Or, uh-oh, if I'm not right on time, that kind of goes against the culture. So this is really what culture actually is. And essentially you can summarize it. It is the unwritten rules and norms that shape how works get done when no one's watching. How are decisions getting made when you're not in the room? That's your culture. On its own, it usually reflects the personalities and autopilot behaviors and habits of the founders. So I'm just going to repeat that. On its own, when you're not thinking about it, when you're not intentionally looking to shape it, it will reflect the personalities and autopilot behaviors of the founders, which is you. And we bring all of ourselves to the work, especially as founders, especially as leaders. And I don't mean to say good culture, bad culture. I call these things realities. Realities are good, bad, or otherwise. They're just how it is. So if you are that frantic founder that brings everyone into your chaos just because that's who you are as a human and maybe you're working on it, that's going to happen. It's not a comment, it's just the reality. So what are those realities in your business now, in your culture? And good cultures are built and they evolve with intention. It all comes down to intention. So what are high performing cultures? What are some traits? How do you know if you've got a high performing culture? What do we strive to do? So traits of a high performing culture, generally people know what success looks like and are empowered. So goals are clear, roles are defined, and by default, people are trusted to do their jobs. And this trust issue is a huge thing I see with founders. And sometimes it comes from bad hires, right? If we hire someone who's bad and they get in and they were a bad hire and they're underperforming. I saw this trusted happen a lot with the whole work from home return to office. If you don't have so first off, lots of reason to have a fully remote environment, lots of reason to have hybrid, lots of great valid reasons to have fully in-office cultures. No comment, choose your lane. But if you are choosing a fully in-office culture or a hybrid culture because you are worried that people are not doing their jobs, that is not a culture problem, that's a trust problem, and that's an individual employee problem. Because I've been doing this 25 years, work from home is relatively new in my career, and I'll tell you now, we used to have I was part of Lunch and Learns about what to do about Facebook and what to do when people are doing their online banking on company time. You can piss away an 8-hour day with a bum in a seat in an office. So just kind of putting that out there. And if you don't trust your people, you can't have a high performing culture. The default has to be trust. So if that's not there, who are your people? Did you hire the right people? Do you make some changes? Issues are raised early and feedback loops exist. So both problems being flagged, and that's everything from, sales is feedback looping to the product, people are looping and talking about what's working, what's not. But most importantly, make sure that positive feedback is reinforced. If I do something great and you don't tell me it was great, what are the chances I'm going to repeat that? If I do something bad and you tell me it's bad, I'm going to stop doing that. But we often know news is good news is not a feedback loop. And it actually makes it so that people just randomly do stuff. Sometimes they do good stuff. Sometimes they don't do good stuff. So we want to make sure that the feedback, most of us kind of know we have to deal with critical feedback, but that positive feedback loops are happening as well, especially their people. Decisions can get made quickly and clearly. There's a process, there's trust, there's no analysis paralysis. And as Matt talked about, this can absolutely be helped be easier through good systems and good process. I also see this with recruiting all the time. You get good candidates in, and then all of a sudden it's like, but so-and-so liked them, and I got 2 thumbs up on this person and this person. It's just this complete analysis paralysis where they weren't clear on how they were going to make this decision in the first place. And then they're so scared to make the decision because of making a bad hiring decision is so costly. So no decision's made, and then their top candidate picks another job. Happens all the time. Analysis paralysis is real. I get it. Decisions are scary. Create clear processes, figure out how decisions are made in your company, and take some of that mental gymnastics off your plate. The other thing is underperforming isn't tolerated. So I have a personal thing. I will never call a company a family. We're not a family. And the reason being is, I won't ask you to raise hands, but let's just all think about some of those people that show up at our dinner table. I know I have some relatives that I'm not allowed to comment on their Facebook posts, despite how it goes against my soul, because I have to have dinner with them on a regular basis. And that's the agreement my husband and I have. So we tolerate poor behavior from our families because they're our families, there's just kind of a little bit more love there. But a company is much more like a professional sports team. Professional sports teams, incredibly close. Obviously, they win together, they go through experiences, they have each other's back. There's like a real human connection. But let's face it, when the head coach of whatever team is no longer performing, he's fired. And it's not, it doesn't take away for everything he did and everywhere he got to that team. He's just no longer effective being in that position. We trade top goalies, we trade top defensemen, pick your sport analogy. I was a big fan of Pete Carroll of the Seahawks days. He actually wrote a great book about leadership, highly recommended. Eventually, he just became ineffective. They let him go. And that's why a company is more like a sports team, because we need to know when someone's no longer being effective and we need to move on, whether that person just outgrew the role or there was some bad behavior, but we don't tolerate it. So we're not a family. That's my personal thing and something I kind of on a soapbox a little bit about, but really just means that there's accountability at all levels. Tough conversations aren't avoided for the sake of being nice. And that's actually something I do a lot in my business consulting, is those tough conversations with founders, because I get it, right? You hired someone in those early stages, maybe you brought your cousin in, you brought some of your classmates in, things aren't going well. It gets that those conversations get stickier and stickier. So it's normal, it's common, just say common, not normal. But also, you know, we want to make sure we're not avoiding those, because then that morale goes down and everything. And then transparency and over communication. So I'm a big fan of things being transparent. We default to over communication, especially in the early stages. There's actually a fun fact, don't quote me on the actual numbers, but communication gets significantly harder when you go from 20 to 50. And we lose those natural organic things where just kind of everybody knows, we can send one Slack, we can have one meeting, and you really got to start putting those systems in place. So when those things you default while you're kind of figuring that out, or just kind of stumbling along, because that's the reality, is that you default to over communication. And there's something called the chief repeating officer, which means if you want to implement something, it has to be repeated over and over again. That same sentence, that same group of words has to be the thing that gets that stickiness for your culture, building those habits with your company. Recommended reading, these are two of my favorite books. I probably read them once a year along with a few other ones. What You Do Is Who You Are by Ben Horowitz. He specifically speaks about that chief repeating officer. Love his stuff. If you haven't read his books, they're amazing. If you haven't done the audiobooks, they're also really fun. Netflix Powerful by Patty McCord. She did the culture deck and then was fired partly for being ineffective, one of those step down things. Talks a little about it. She's just really upfront, no bullshit, kind of tells it how it is, and talks a lot about changing and evolving culture and kind of having some of those tough conversations. Highly recommend them. Both the audiobooks are excellent and narrated by the authors. So how do you grow and support your culture? So we've got this high performing culture, we've got these habits, and actually policies and people programs are a big part of supporting and reinforcing your culture. But as founders, we have to go, oh, we're too small. We don't need policies. We don't need people practices. But you're building that culture whether you're intentionally doing or not. And if you bring some of that intention in and you build policies, they're critical for setting and communicating expectations. If you build some of those people programs, they're critical for growing and retaining your staff. Matt showed that stat that had the things that people care about. They care about compensation, they care about growth. Well, if you don't have any program in place or any way for people to talk to you about that, to answer the question, how am I growing here at your company? What future do they see with the company? And these don't need to be overcomplicated. You're not Amazon. We don't need career laddering with 27 different positions and putting everyone in a box. And I often say, like, for performance management or performance growth conversations, every month, take someone out for coffee, have a conversation, give them feedback. Where would they like to grow? What skills are they not using? What skills would they like to have? Bonus points, follow up with an email, summarizing the conversation. Boom. That's your performance management or your performance review process when you're one or two people. It doesn't have to be these overcomplicated, over-engineered things that just send us into the, we're not ready for that. They can absolutely be scaled to be sized appropriate. So some of the key policies you're going to want to start thinking about, and this is again, as soon as you have that one other person who's not your co-founder, start thinking about some of the things. So you can start organically building your employee handbook. Document as you go, set expectations, and build your culture playbook. People think the employee manual is all about, code of conduct and like these big, heavy rules. And yes, they are. That's where those things live. But it's also about how do you communicate? What are the expectations of the company? So if you've never seen a good employee handbook, like Google the table of contents for an employee handbook, get ChatGPT to give you the table of contents for an employee handbook, you'll see things like how is communication done? You'll see things, what are the cultural norms of a company? This is where this stuff is all documented. So start writing that stuff down, and then before you know it, you'll have a semblance of an employee handbook that encompasses most of the things, and you'll avoid the, hey, now I need to write the big onerous employee handbook. Clearly define the time off policies. If I'm gonna say you have to have one thing, one policy, one rule policies, please, please, please figure out your vacation. How much vacation you're offering people, how do people ask for it off, and how do you track it? Vacation is a payroll liability. If someone quits your company tomorrow and you've given them, and they've earned 2 weeks vacation over the course of the year, and they didn't take the vacation, or you don't have record that they took the vacation, although they said they took it, you have to pay them that vacation. It is an absolute payroll. You start adding 10 employees and you have that payroll liability. If you're getting ready to raise, talked about data rooms, investors look at this. This is a payroll liability. You owe people by law their unused vacation when they quit, when you fire them, you owe that to them. So just making sure you have that. And I've seen this blow up in people's faces, and it's just so easy. Put a simple process in place. Again, it doesn't need to be overkill. An email saying, hey, can I take this vacation off? The founder hits approved. It lives in a folder, done and dusted. They come back and say, oh, I didn't take that vacation. You owe me this vacation. You have an email train. Could be as simple as that, or Slack channel. Doesn't need to be overcomplicated, but get something in place. The other area I see people fumble is remote work and distributed team policies. What is the expectation? You've got people in BC, you've got people in Toronto. Are people expected to be online at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time? Is there a overall office policy that we overlap with work hours? But without these clear expectations set, people can't deliver. So I'm going to assume, if you don't tell me, I'm going to be online Pacific Standard Time. But maybe your expectation is that I'm available to the CEO, if you're the founder, that I'm available to you on Mountain Standard Time. Or maybe there's an expectation that I reply within an hour of Slack during those core business hours. If you don't communicate these things, people don't know what you expect, and it usually results in eroding of trust. And as we all know, trust takes a long time to build and can be taken away in an instant. And it's so important, especially if you're hiring employees and we are in a remote world. It just takes us longer to build that rapport and trust. So just make sure you take a few seconds, have a think about it, write it down so that everyone's on the same page. All this stuff, if you took an afternoon and thought about your culture and some of these key things, you could hammer something out, I promise. It doesn't need to be complicated. Code of conduct, be clear, no asshole rule, another fun word. Absolutely. What is tolerated, what isn't? Code of conduct, there's always like a legal side of it. Provincially, through the WorkSafest, you're supposed to have a code of conduct. You can get online. You don't need to do it. But overall, just more of those culture things, more of those nuances. What kind of culture are you? Are, fun, tongue-in-cheek memes acceptable? What is the line? When do they cross, right? That's going to look different for every person. Some of you might come from very corporate backgrounds or just more formal people, and you're kind of like, you know what? There's no place at work for some of these things. And some of you might want to build something that's a little bit more casual, a little bit more fun. But again, what is that line? So just take a few moments and write that down. And then everyone knows what the rules are. And we can then hire against it when we know what we're looking for, but we can also make sure everyone's set up for success. And then you might want to consider confidentiality and IP ownership agreements if this isn't already part of your employment contracts, which your lawyers will have this wording, so just get it from them. And then right now, obviously common sense AI policies. Again, it's going to look different for each of you. I have one client that works in the government sector. We absolutely, if we get caught using something like ChatGPT, the free version is completely, all of the things go into the world. We cannot use the name of the ministries. Like there's a whole list of like, you have to scrub what you're asking to use that. And there are lots of GBTs basically that are more closed. So your data doesn't go into the bigger universe. A great way is I use AI to screen resumes, but I absolutely pay for one that I'm putting people's full names and addresses into a system to read for me. I'm not doing that on ChatGPT free. That's like absolutely no. But some people don't even know that that's how that works. So something you might want to consider, common sense AI policies. I love AI, should use it. It's a tool, leverage it, but make sure, people have common sense because the baseline knowledge level is different for everyone. I like to think in tech we're a little bit more savvy, but maybe not all your folks are. Awesome. And then key people programs. So basically you want to hire, onboard, align, grow, recognize. So thorough onboarding. Again, spend all this time making the right hire. Let's make sure they're onboarded properly. Where do they go on their first day? It's a remote work environment, right? There's kind of not that show up to the office and, you know, if they don't have a meeting or they're waiting for the next meeting, they get chatting with someone at the water cooler. That doesn't happen anymore in the remote world. So if you have a new employee that just started and you didn't give them something to do, they're sitting at home twiddling their thumbs, waiting for the next meeting. If they even have that next meeting in their calendar. So make sure when you bring someone on, you give them that good employee experience. Matt talked about how that bad employee or that bad experience for recruiters loses you candidates. Well, a bad onboarding, a bad employee experience, especially in the first couple of days, can absolutely lose you good talent that you already hired. And I'll tell you right now, really common sourcing, obviously these people are generally passive candidates, they're not actively looking, but good people, good talent always have options. And if they just quit their job, very scary, right? Oh my God, I just quit my job. I think this company I'm gonna work for is like gonna be really good, but obviously this company probably wasn't that bad because they're still there. They weren't actively looking, they were sourced. And then all of a sudden it's like they've had a really shitty first week experience because they didn't know where they were going. No one's giving them any work to do. They're sitting at home twiddling their thumbs. Oh my God, what did I just do? And what do you think that really smart, good candidate's doing? Do you think they're sitting there or do you think maybe they're emailing some people? Maybe they're emailing Matt and going, hey, this hasn't worked out. You know, what else is out there? They're emailing their friends, they're sharing that. And that, again, that trust gets eroded, right? So just make sure you're being intentional. None of this has to be onerous or a lot of work, but it is something that has to be done. So just being thoughtful about that. Make sure you're creating opportunity for connection with teams. That's the social programs. You know, they can look like getting people together, online, kind of optional bi-weekly social hours where you kind of play a game or have some chit chatting or play some people bingo. That kind of stuff is really good. Regular performance conversations. We talked about that, creating the feedback loop, make sure they have a place to talk about where they're going to grow with the career. The other thing is compensation review schedule. So do this early in your business. People want to know when they can make more money. Compensation was the top thing for people. So you got them in the door. Their next logical thing is gonna be like, well, when do I talk about a raise? And I see this a lot. Usually what it is nothing's been put in place formally. So it hasn't been, hey, every November we talk about raises or we talk about raises at your 1 year mark, whatever. There's no right or wrong. Just put something in place because when it's not in place, people don't know when they can talk about it. And if you don't communicate that this is kind of our cadence of when we review this, you're not transparent about it, they sit there and they make up all sorts of stories. And in general, our brains as humans, we're not that evolved. We kind of have this reptile brain that kicks in most of the time. And when we don't give people information, when we don't set expectations, when we don't explicitly say, this is what we do, someone starts thinking about their pay. Oh, I've been here a year. Nobody's talked to me about my pay. And you just haven't. You didn't need to. You just don't have this in place yet. But all of a sudden they start making up these stories. And I've heard everything from, well, nobody talked about my pay. Obviously, I was unappreciated in this role. You know, there's no growth at this company. And the founder's like, oh my God, like, absolutely. Maybe you were talking about their pay with your chief financial person, but you didn't communicate to them, or the company didn't know, or staff didn't know when they could talk about it. And that's also when all of a sudden it's like, hey, I have another job offer. I want 20K more. Because they didn't know, they started looking because they were unhappy about their pay, or they wanted to buy a house, or they just hadn't heard anything. And they make the assumption that the company has no money and doesn't do raises. Who knows what assumptions they make, right? But we want to just make sure that we're putting at least a time, annually is great, or collectively around your fiscal, because then you know budgets, just to say, hey, everyone, we're going to talk about compensation here. That's it. You don't need to provide any more details, and we will talk about compensation one time a year. And the talk might be, we will talk about this again in 6 months because we have no money, or because we're about to raise and we want to get to that next milestone, or because we're setting up a program, we want to talk to everyone. Such a more powerful conversation than just sitting in the back room with your executives going, okay, we know that everyone's kind of talking about it, but we're not ready. We'll be ready in 6 months, and then just not communicating that out to your employees. So again, that transparency helps build that trust. And you also, for the compensation review schedule, definitely making sure you're just focused on equity, which is just making sure the person you hire you have some rhyme or reason why they make more or less than the other person doing the same job. So it can be as simple as that. And conversations based on budgets. Whole other talk I could do around early stage compensation philosophy. We'll move on. Lightweight learning and growth. Can you pay for their conference ticket? Can you give them the day to go to the conference? Can't even pay for it. Totally fine. So again, just writing down somewhere that you support people's learning and growth. And please just talk to us if you have an opportunity for professional development. We will discuss things on a case-by-case basis. Boom, done. Didn't even commit to a budget. Just putting these things in place. Employee appreciation's the other one. So starting right away, are you going to celebrate birthdays, one-year events, marriages, babies, you know, if someone's sick, can you send them a skip the dishes card to kind of take that load off of them? Those little things go a long way. They're often very low cost and easy to get set up right away. And then value and performance-based recognition. So making sure you're recognizing people when they do a good job, going above and beyond. Again, this can look at it like shout outs at a town hall, Slack channels that are kudos. There's tons of recognition program software out there if that's kind of what you want to double down on in regards to how you build your business, but it doesn't need to be complicated. And then consider, if you don't already have it, ESOP doesn't need to be awarded on day one, as well as potentially profit share. Profit share is a great way early stage if money's up and down that you just kind of say every either quarter or yearly, you just kind of take a percentage of that profit, you know, so a big percentage obviously go back into investing in the business, but maybe there's a percentage that can be distributed amongst the employees. And it's just a way to kind of give everybody some stuff. Again, all these things can be simple, lightweight, and stage aligned, and grow, but it starts and lets people know that you care. So just to kind of go back about these key policies here, some of the stuff you want to start thinking about, and the key people programs. And if we bring back the traits of the high performing culture, you can see how those key people programs and those key policies start to reinforce that. And they very much are intertwined. Hopefully that was easy peasy. 1 + 1 = 2 on that one. So your key points to remember from my presentation here, your culture is constantly being shaped. The earlier you shape it intentionally, the more effective your team will be. Policies and programs set expectations, make your people feel recognized and want to stick around. And it doesn't need to be formal, fancy, or even fully built out. It just needs to be intentional from day one. Awesome. So this is me, same thing, 30-minute complimentary office hours to chat for any NVBC community members. This is my email, my LinkedIn. That's the event QR code there. Yeah. Anyone have any questions? Thank you. Woo, power talk. Fast talker.
Any template samples of your policies and programs that we can kickstart with?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say if you just want templates or samples, you can chat GBT it. Some of it, you got to make some decisions. So people will be like, oh, can you just write me, or do you have a template for an employee manual? It's like, yeah, I can give you the headers. I can give you relatively the words. And to be honest, ChatGPT can too. I built my templates before ChatGPT was a thing. But the reality is you need to decide how can people take vacation time, right? So I think it's your best bet is, yes, you can absolutely chat, and I'm happy to build your whole employee manual. We can talk about that. But, you know, just writing down what you want, throw that in ChatGPT, it'll give you a policy. I pretty much am sure that you'll never be able to, like HR people will never be able to make money on an employee manual again with AI. However, you do, I should say that. You do need to be able to assess what the AI put out. So a vacation policy, you're fine, but any of those legal ones, you probably just want a human who knows what they're talking about. It's like your legal agreements. I use ChatGPT all the time for kind of contract wording, but I would never be like, hi, give me this super legal document that I'm just going to now give and be binding without having a lawyer assess it, right? Yes.
A little bit of online questions. So just for both of you, can you share your thoughts on how to structure KPIs for partners and key leadership roles? And do you think every team member in an organization should have KPIs assigned to them?
I'm coming up.
Okay. I'll give my quick thoughts. Yes, everyone should have clear expectations of their role and clear deliverables of what they're being held accountable for. Whether you want to use, when you say KPI, if you want to invest in that particular framework, sure. There's a bunch out there. If that resonates with you, if you already know that or familiar with that, want to go down that route, awesome. But just again, to avoid the, we're too small for the KPI or OKRs, which can feel really complicated, potentially if you're in the earlier stages. Clear expectations. What do you need this person to deliver in their role? And what are you holding them accountable at the end of the year or at the 6-month mark or whenever you're doing those touch bases?
So I grew up in a recruiting agency after I pursued pro golf, right? They had KPIs on me. The company was around for 26 years. I broke their monthly, quarterly, and annual records for revenue brought in. I owned that place. They had KPIs on me monthly. I faked them. Just faked them. And I even went to the CEO one day. I was like, hey, the director of operations keeps asking for these KPIs. And I'm like, just let me be. And she's like, and the CEO said, just fake them because I trust you. So it's tricky. When I hear that question, what I really hear is there's a trust issue between whoever's writing that question and the leadership team, which is very common. Which brings me back to the first question is, did you settle when you're building your team and your founding team? Because I've done this in my company and I look back on the relationships I've had is the team I have right now, I have no KPIs. I don't have a large company or team. We get a lot done. We make awesome revenue. But yeah, so it depends how much you need. I think at a certain size, you need KPIs are important. OKRs and all that stuff's important. But I don't want to get religious here, but it's like, do you not kill because you follow the Bible, or do you not kill because you know it's wrong? So this is what I believe KPIs, which I obviously can tell I've had many conversations in life about this. So yeah, that's my take on KPIs. What's up?
Got actually 3 points that I directed to both of you. One would be probationary periods. I don't think you mentioned that. Is there like an ideal time? It should be 0, or should it be longer or whatever? So that's
one, yeah. Okay.
one.
Yeah.
Second would be stock options.
Yeah.
And how does that figure into the hiring process? Yeah. And third is professional development.
Yeah.
Like, how would you handle professional development? Is there like a formula that works really well? I've thought with my previous company, like sharing, if someone wants to take a course, if they wanted to pay 50% off, I should pay 50%. Maybe there's a better formula for that.
Yeah, I hear you.
So those are the 3 points.
Probation, so legally, like all probationary period, so the word probationary period lives in your employment contracts.
Right.
And it is a legal time frame that, like in BC, if you want to let them go within the first 3 months, you don't owe them notice.
Okay.
That's kind of what probationary period is from that legal standpoint. Now,
So
if
that's
you,
understood, like, you don't have to bring it up, it's just part of the
that
law.
should be in your contract, but it is in your law and people cannot sign
That's the
away.
law.
That, yeah,
Okay.
people
Like
cannot,
that's-
and people cannot sign away their basic rights, so let's pretend you didn't put that in the contract.
Right.
It's the worker's protected and you're protected with that.
Okay.
If you wanna put a probationary period, an initial period just to kind of assess, like a senior leader is like at 6 months, we're gonna assess these things. Sure, my thing is why call it a probationary period and what are you assessing at the 6 months and what's on the line about it, right? Like, is it like if you don't hit these things in the first 6 months, we're firing you and here's kind of the negotiated separation package, and then I would lean on Matt's kind of tagline this evening of like, sounds like you settled on that, but that's kind of.
Yeah, the first one you ask about it, so the law is the law, right? So it's nice as an owner to make a decision in 3 months.
Right. Okay.
So I've done this in my company, like I've also not done it in 3 months and like kept a person for a year and like lost $100,000
Yeah.
because I'm just being lazy and I'm not dealing with
there.
conflict well. So, and it's my company, so I just took it away from my mortgage and my children. It's pretty stupid. But the team all knew in that first 3 months is gonna fit. One of the things I've learned after watching hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hires, if it's not good in the first 3 months, it's not gonna get better.
Yeah.
I've never once seen it get better, and I've seen it always go way worse. So I was a little bit more optimistic before I saw all this, but if it's not good in the first 1 month, 3 months, you gotta wrap it up early. It's not a fit for them, it's not fit for you.
I agree with earlier too. I have a saying, hire fast, fire faster.
Right.
And I actually usually do a 6-week check-in. So the idea is, cause it's just sometimes easy in small companies, you kind of get busy, maybe forget about the person. So it's like that 6 weeks, do the pulse check with whoever's working with them. Are they working out? Do we have that gut feel that we're on the right track? If they're not, let's get that person that feedback right away so they can like maybe turn it around within 3 months, or have that kind of check-in to go in. The gut check sometimes is like, you know what, this is just so not working for either we made the wrong hire, or again, were they set up for success? Because I have seen really great hires not work out because the company isn't set up for success. And that actually, to me, is the most heartbreaking thing as an HR person, is Matt did his job amazingly, got you good hires, you followed the instructions, they came in 14 days, and then because they had no onboarding plan, they're left to their own devices. You had a mid-level person that needed supervision. This is, this is why partners and senior partners are so great. When I jump into a company, I need little supervision. I can take half an hour of a founder's time, unpack something and deliver, but I have 20+ years experience, and that's what you're paying me to do. If you're going to hire, especially a junior mid-level person, they need more direction, they need more supervision, they need that touch base. So even the most stellar hire can fail.
So some other things on that is, if they're not asking questions about what your priority is as a leader anyways, they're probably not gonna work, sadly enough. So if they're younger or they're newer to the workforce, I would accept that. But if it's a mid to senior person, I would probably wrap up the agreement. Because again, I've seen this way too many times. I mean, and this is why the sharks and vultures thing came up earlier. There's all these people gonna be trying to take advantage of you and circling you because they think you're a promising piece of meat. And I see it way too much and I hate it. And it's like, I don't like it. So you're all gonna be circled. So you asked 2 other questions, so we're running out of time. So I'm gonna say the first one on my views on stocks is there's the thing called the emotional agreement, which we talk about, which is not what is this written in the agreement, but what do they go home and talk to their wife or their husband about? And what are they really saying about this position? You need to have conversations with that person about the emotional agreement, not that written thing. Funny story about this is I was talking to this guy, I was working in this new company, and we were there like stock agreements, and I was like, sweet, I was younger. I like went into a hallway because I was at a friend's place. I'm like, I got you the best offer, yeah. And he's like, I don't want the stock options. I was like, what? Stock options only exercise if the company sells. So like, do you know how many companies exit? Like, I don't know what it is, but it's not very high.
Right.
He's been through it before. He's a senior dude. He said, I don't want the stock options. And I was like, huh? He said, I have a family. I've been through this twice. Just get me higher base salary. I was like, what? And that was a great lesson for me. That I didn't have the emotional agreement contract with that individual and be like, hey, what's important to you? Tell me what's important for you. Like, because I've hired people externally as well in my company. And it's like, when you have that conversation with them, you're stepping away from that contract and you're actually setting up a life with them. And that's when it gets exciting and interesting for them too. They can go home and say, hey, this company offered me 20K more, but this guy gets me. I feel like we're building something together. And if you find that out when the agreement's already been sent, you probably failed. On the third thing, which was, what was it?
Professional development.
Oh yeah, same thing, emotional agreement, emotional contract. I'm a flexible kind of, this is where I think what the interesting rub between HR and recruiting is, which I've experienced in companies, is they're both very valuable, right? But I'm like just wing it and figure it out. And HR would always have to pull me aside and be like, we can't do that because we need to do this, this, and this. So it's really, they're both super important. But on that side, for me, it's about a trust exercise, right? So policies are going to be important, but if you're working with team members and someone expects it without earning it, it's kind of a weird vibe. And if somebody you love, you can go like, hey, like I send events to people who I really like, be like, hey, you should probably go check this out. So, that's my vibe on that is, probably policies are really good, but like my wife left a VP of finance job because the policies were, enough for her to walk away. And she was like, yeah. And she had her first, I have 2 daughters. She wanted to work from home. The policy said no. And she's like, talked to the CEO and was like, hey, and then he said, well, the policy is there because it's not for you. It's for everyone else who asks to work from home. And policies are good and bad. But, she was there for like 9 years and she was the most senior finance person in a huge operation. And that was the one thing that made her say, you know what? So she left. She got a good payment, and now she's a mortgage broker. She works from home with her sister, and they're loving it. So, Have to take.
Yeah, and just on that, policies don't need to be this big, complicated to the point of being more stage aligned.
Mm.
So policy just puts in guardrails, right? And I love working for smaller companies because I'm actually like an anti-rule follower, like people who know me, I'm very risk tolerant. When I work with founders, they're like, oh my gosh, this person said this. I'm like, oh, our chance of getting sued are pretty low. We got a good lawyer, like, let's just do this instead, because it's for the best of the business and for the best of the people. So it can, it's just putting those guardrails in place, and they're really designed to fit 80% of use cases, 80% of the time. I also don't believe policies should cater to the lowest common denominator. So in the idea of like a work from home of like, we got to put this big rigid policy and then kind of bring in people for exclusion from the policy is a little, especially the work from home one, is a little bit of a trust thing for sure. So just guardrails, right? It's just, and it's also a little bit of a fairness thing, right? At the end of the day, you can always use case by case basis, and your policies can say, we will address this on a case by case basis, which lets you go, hey, super stellar employee who I want to reward and recognize, I will pay 100% of your conference ticket. And, kind of person who's doing a great job and I want to support their growth, but not as critical of a PD activity or whatever. Hey, let's just cover 50%, or why don't you cover it because it's lower cost and we'll give you the day off. Like, you can absolutely make a decision based on the human. It's one of the reasons I only work for big or small companies, because big companies, that strictness like drives me bananas, because I'm just like, I always think I'm the exception to the rule anyways. I was that employee, so, and I worked in HR, so it was a little bit challenging. Yes, on that, for policies, definitely reminder of stage aligned policies. Don't build rigid policies.
And I know
that-
we're running out, but I just want to say this, remember 90% of the companies fail. And so from an HR perspective, even if you're thinking about this, and you show on a new team member that, hey, we're kind of working on this stuff now, you're already kind of in the top 10%. Because we know the other ones are not. And new team members will respect that you're at least having the conversations and trying to build something.
Yep.
Because just like the real estate tech guy, I gave you an example, the executive assistant was a part-time model who was running recruiting. That's not a policy. So when in the interview process, you can imagine everyone's just like, I'm out. And so I think it's just great to even be thinking about these things. Just getting something in place, even if it's a Google Doc to share new team members and just talk about it. It means you're thinking long-term, people respect that about you, right? So,
Awesome. Are we at 6:30?
we're done.
Six o'clock.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Any last words? You're good?
No, I'm
Yeah.
gonna kind of kick, with the space for a little bit to kind of kick around networking.
Don't settle. Don't settle, any of you. I don't care if it's your first person or your founder or your co-founder. Don't settle. Canada's getting your asses kicked, and it's for a reason. And I see it for too long. All you people are starting businesses, 90% you're gonna fail. Please don't settle. That's all I gotta say.
Agreed.
All right, well, thanks, folks.
Thanks, guys.
All right, yeah, you're free to stay, free to chat with the speakers. See you later online, and slides,
I already
video will be
talked to you on
shared.
LinkedIn. Are you in the clean?
And what's
You-